Hello, welcome to my channel. I am Brita Wallace, a family and parent educator with Wallace Family Ministry, and we are on a journey of the love dare for your marriage, or for relationships. I like to say it is made for your marriage, but I think that we can apply this to our relationships as well. If we have a significant other, or we're dating, or we're engaged, or something like that. And today we are on day 22 out of 40 days of the Love Dare, which is super encouraging because we've made it to the top of the hill and now we're going down to the finish line and approaching. We're on that other side of that hump, right? Which makes you feel good when you know that you are more than halfway done with something. I just feel like for me especially, it gives me encouragement to want to finish it and to finish it strong. So we're gonna hop right in today. And today's dare is love is faithful, okay? So we always begin with a verse, and our verse is Hosea 2:20, which says, I will betroth you to me in faithfulness, then you will know the Lord. All right? So the first point that I want you to get that is, as Christians, if you're a Christian, this definitely applies to us, right? Love is the basis of our whole identity, okay? As God's children, He gives us the name beloved, which means we are the ones who are unconditionally loved by God. The focus of our lives becomes loving God and others, okay? So that's what our focus is as Christians. It becomes, our focus of our lives becomes loving God and loving others, okay? So our love for each other is supposed to be how people distinguish us as Christ's disciples. That's the next thing that I want you to get. John 13:35. It is the root and ground of our existence, okay? And we learn that in Ephesians 3:17. And it's meant to be expressed with passion and fervency, our love for God and for others, okay? And we find that in 1 Peter 4:8. Love is an exercise we are to abound in more and more. 1 Thessalonians 3:12, always getting better at it, becoming increasingly defined by it. So the next point that I want you to get is that we should always be getting better at loving others, and we should become increasingly defined by this, okay? So if love is what we are created to share, what do you do when your love is rejected, all right? How do you handle it when the one to whom you've pledged your life stops accepting the love you've called to give? All right? So the account of the prophet Hosea is one of the most remarkable in the Bible. Against all logic and propriety, God instructed him to marry a prostitute. He wanted Hosea, marriage to show what heaven's unconditional love looks like towards us. Hosea's union with Gomer produced 3 children, but as expected, this woman who had long made her living in immorality was not content to stay faithful to just one man. So Hosea was left to deal with a broken heart and the shame of abandonment. He had loved her, but she had spurned his love. They had grown close, but now she had been disloyal and adulterous, rejecting him for the lust of total strangers. Time passed and God spoke to Hosea again, telling him to go and reaffirm his love for this woman who had been repeatedly unfaithful. By now, however, she had reached a new low and was being sold as a dirty, unwanted slave. But Hosea paid the price for her redemption and brought her home. Yes, she had treated his love with contempt. She had dealt treacherously with his heart, yet he welcomed her back into his life, expressing an unconditional love toward her, okay? So this is a true story, but God uses it to paint a lasting picture of his love for us, okay? So even when we go off and we do things that we feel are shameful to God, and really they are, we're sinning and we're making bad choices, God is always going to welcome us back into his family. We have to just repent, and we have to work to do better next time, right? We have to work on that heart change. So this is a picture of his love for us. Through Hosea's action, we see a God who showers his favor on us without measure. though we often don't pay attention in return. At times, we have acted shamefully and deemed his love an intrusion, as if it is keeping us from what we really want. Okay? We've rejected him in many ways, even after receiving his gift of eternal salvation, and yet he still loves us. God still remains faithful. Even so, his love doesn't keep him from calling us to account for our mistreatment of him, okay? We pay more of a price for our rejection than we often realize, all right? Yet he still chooses to respond with grace and mercy. In him we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of our trespasses according to the riches of his glory. Ephesians 1:7. In him we have the model of what rejected love does. It stays faithful. Okay? Jesus called his followers to this kind of love in the passage known as the Sermon on the Mount. He said, to love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, and pray for those who mistreat you. And he said this in Luke 6:27-8. After all, if you love those who love you, what credit is this to you? Okay, that is a heart question, a heart question to ask, right? For even sinners love those who love them. If you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you, right? For even sinners do the same. Luke 6:32-33. And they're saying that when we are, treating others the way that they treat us, we're not showing. Everybody else does that. When we're loving people, when they're loving us and when they're good to us, well, sinners do that too. When we're giving people the same treatment that they give us, and I'm talking about the other side now of this, when it's bad, so somebody's treating us bad and we're returning that, well, sinners do that too. We're supposed to be set apart. We're supposed to be like Christ, and we're not all good at this. I'm not good at this all the time. There are moments or days or times where I fail at this too, and we all do. We all fall short, don't we? We all are subjected to sin. We're all subjected to human nature, and wanting to get even with people when they do us wrong. But God asks us to do something differently. Jesus instructs us to do something different. And I'm going to read it again because it's important. He said to love your enemies, okay? Do good to those who hate you. And I'm not saying that means you have to invite them to dinner and hang out with them all the time. That's not what he's saying. He's saying that we have to love them. Maybe we need to pray for them, right? Or not maybe, we do. That we do good to those who hate you. So if you see a need, say somebody is in the water drowning and you hate them. You don't let them drown. You go do good and you save them, okay? That's an extreme example, but it's a good example, is that some people will sit there and watch and say, oh, all my dreams have been are coming true right now. I don't have to deal with this person anymore. They don't. I get to choose whether or not I save them or not, and we want to jump in the water and we want to save those people, even those people who hate us, right? Or who we say that we hate. We shouldn't hate anybody. If we're hating people, that's an extreme heart issue. We need to check that, especially as Christians, okay? We need to bless those who curse us and pray for those who mistreat us, okay? That is what we are called to do. After all, if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. If you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. So he says, love your enemies and do good and lend, expecting nothing in return. And your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High, for he himself is kind to ungrateful and evil men. Luke 6:25. So from the vantage point of the wedding altar, you would never have dreamed that the person you married might later become to you a kind of enemy, right? But sometimes our spouses do become our enemy. In certain marriages, in certain seasons of life even, and one that we would need to love as a difficult and even painful sacrifice. Sometimes we need to love our spouses is a difficult and maybe even painful sacrifice. And yet, far too often in marriage, the relationship does indeed dwindle down to that level, even to the point of betrayal or, sadly, to unfaithfulness, all right? So for many, this is the beginning of the end. Some respond by rapidly moving towards a tragic divorce, and others, more protective of their reputation in the eyes of others, decide to keep their charade going. But they have no intention of liking it or trying any harder, much less of truly offering their love. Again, this is not the model, however, for the follower of Christ. If love is to be like his, it must love even when it even when its overtures are returned unwanted. And for your love to be like that, it must be his love to begin with. It must come from God to begin with, okay? The reason why you still have hope of giving undeserved love to your spouse is because God has given his undeserved love to you. And that's the next point that I want you to get. The reason you still have hope for giving undeserved love to your spouse is because God has given his undeserved love to you repeatedly, enduringly. Love is often expressed the most to those who deserve it the least, okay? So that is the next thing that I want you to get is love is often expressed to those who deserve it the least. So this is an action step. Ask God to fill you with the kind of love he can only provide, and then purpose to give it to your mate in a way that reflects your gratefulness to God for loving you. That's the beauty of redeeming love. That's the power of faithfulness, okay? So our dare today is love is a choice, guys, not a feeling. It is an initiated action, not an impulsive reaction. I love that. I'm going to read it again. Love is a choice, not a feeling. It is an initiated action, not an impulsive reaction. Isn't that amazing? These authors have like the best, Alex and Stephen Kendrick. I've read plenty of their books, not just the Love Dares, and they have the best wisdom. They are just so full of wisdom. They're so full of God's Spirit, and they say things in a way that really pulls on your heartstrings and says, wow, like, that is amazing. I wish that I had that much etiquette in writing where I could just speak these words so freely and really reach somebody, because a lot of these things in here that they say and a lot of the things in their other books, I'm just like, wow, blown away by their wisdom, okay? And by just their skills in writing, okay? And I've always been a writer, and these guys, man, they are amazing. They are so talented and phenomenal. So let's just give them a hand and some credit here, because these guys, man, they are so amazing. And I can teach what they're saying in this book, but holy moly, like, I am not them. I am not at that teaching level, and I hope that someday, as God continues to grow me, and I don't say that from a place of jealousy or envy. I say that from a place of, I hope God makes me be half of the teacher that these guys, of his word, that these guys are, because, man, that would mean I would just be filled with so much wisdom and so much knowledge of God and so much of his Spirit and presence, and that's really what I long for in my lifetime. So, love is a choice, not a feeling. It is an initiated action, not an impulsive reaction. So the dare is choose today to be committed to love, even if your spouse has lost most of their interest in receiving it. Say to them today in words similar to these, man, I love you, period. And no matter what you do, I will never stop loving you. Okay? So make sure that we are completing that dare, no matter how hard it is, guys, okay? Because it's not always going to be the easiest thing to say that to our spouse. And it's not always easy to say, I'm going to love you no matter what, period, okay? That's not always the easiest thing. But let's make a pact together today to say that to our spouse, to love our spouses that way, to be like Hosea, and to lead by his example, that no matter what our spouses do, that we love them anyway, we meet them where they're at, and we give them the unconditional love that we need to receive from God. If we are not receiving it, and that we do receive from God if we are receiving it, and we tap into that. We say that prayer, asking God to fill us with his love and to help us love our spouses the way that he does. So I can't wait to see you tomorrow for day 23 of the Love Dare. I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. If you have not yet, make sure you subscribe to my channel, like it, and share me with your friends. Take care, and God bless.